Dr. Salawati Matbasir is an associate professor at the Faculty of Law. She obtained LLB, LLM, and PhD degree from UKM. And prior to joining UKM, Dr. Salawati held several professional positions, including practicing advocate and solicitor, legal advisor, and international trade and development officer. Dr. Salawati's interests include development law, international law, and strategic studies, and then Asian integration and regionalism. Her research focused on development issues in Southeast Asia, poverty and right to development, and international politics. In particular, she worked on financing for development, sustainable development, nuclear security, and international economic. So, before we start our discussion, I would like to inform you that all of you that the session will last for 2 hours. That uh, Dr. Salawati will do a presentation for 45 minutes, and then we will spend our time to question and answer session. And for the question and answer session, in order to build an active two-way interactive discussion, we hope that all participants would like to prepare a critical question regarding the issue. So in this session, all the participants are able to ask a question, sharing their perspective or response statement toward the guest lecturer. You can ask a question directly by raise a hand first, and please turn on your microphone or video, and I will let you to ask your question. And also you can type your question through the chat file available on the Zoom platform. Okay, now we will start our main agenda. Without any further ado, I'm glad to welcome Dr. Salawati Matbasir to present the interesting topic in today's session. The time is approximately 45 minutes. Prof, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much to the chairperson. Okay, good afternoon, and I hope that everyone already took their lunch, so they will listen carefully, because I think this is a very interesting topic that given to me from Undip to discuss with you, because you, all of you actually is a master's level, and it's very important to see the different perspective. Yes, when I look at the topic, the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States and human rights issues in Southeast Asia, I think more or less we are talking about the same direction. The only thing is ASEAN as regionalism and also United States of America as a superpower. And we know that they want to maintain, they really want to maintain their status quo. Okay, actually, I think if you're looking at the election, the recent election in United States of America, actually Biden are not really I can say major support actually from the US people, because the place that he wins in US is actually the place where many immigrants or I can say a big cities, but the really traditional American area still win by Trump. So this is something that very good to explain, and how we can detail it and connect it with the standards of human rights issues in Southeast Asia. Well, this is so many issues. When people talking about human rights, people looking from very different perspective. Many people say when you're talking about human rights, it's my rights. What I can do, what I want to do, you don't have any right to say no to me. Very simple, from what we want to wear, yeah, and also what we want to believe. For example, it's a truly human rights. When you're talking about it, it's about the right that we guarantee for you as human being. But many people actually forget that the very important right is the right to live. The right to live as a human being. That is the one that very major perspective actually. And many people forget it. Many people just think another thing in the perspective of human right. Okay, that one is one issue. But today's discussions, we want to direct as the election of Joe Biden as the president of the United States, and what is the connotation, so what is connection with the human rights standards in Southeast Asia we have with 10th country in ASEAN. Okay, for me, if you ask me, is it America is a model for human rights? Definitely is no. many people thinking, wow, you want to see the freedom of speech, the freedom to do what you want to do. Like, for example, in a train in New York, there is a day that people don't want to wear trousers, so they just wear shirt and other garment, and that's the rights, because they think they can do it. And many people give a middle finger to Trump when he left, you know, after he when he want to live from one place to another, when he's some sort like knows that he defeated by Biden in last election. Actually, I think human rights is not what the Western perspective and Eastern perspective think. If you really look at what is the human rights under the UDHR, I think it's a very clear that when Eleanor Roosevelt drafted that, she really means to have the equality to everyone, not based on gender, nothing to do because of a color, nothing to do with the religion. It's more on as a human being, you as human being, born as human being, in what rights that you must get from others, from government, from authority. Yeah, it's right to live first, and then it can be right for education, right for vote, right to have, you know, educations and so on, housing and job, work and everything. But the very focus that I want to know is, we cannot use, personally, I don't believe US is as the place that you can say, okay, if you want to see the democracy, you see US. If you want to see the freedom of speech, we see US. If you're thinking that the best model for the human rights, actually, there is no other country in this world have the very best model despite they claim it. No. If we are really careful, in US, it's full of discriminations. The system itself is full with discrimination towards the color people. If you can really look every year, you can see the discrimination in many aspects, especially to the blacks, to the Hispanic, and to the Asian in the United States of America. But normally, we are already being doctrined by the Hollywood film, by the way US handle themselves, because they are superpower and they want to maintain that, and China is a very greatest enemy for them at this moment. So if even Joe Biden's become a president or not, the standard of human rights in US cannot be implemented on ASEAN. Under international law, human right is actually the universal issue and universal meaning. Okay, that's why when we learn human rights under international law, we will have to see that every country have a right to define what is human right, that according to the law, to the constitution, and to the practice of a people on that particular place. That's why the Scandinavian value cannot be bring in my country. When same-sex marriage is being recognized and being celebrated in certain countries, can be taught in my country. Because in our constitution, a Malaysian constitution, is very clear that Islam is the religion for the federation, without discriminating any other religion that been practiced by others. Meaning we give a right to other religion to be practiced peacefully and harmony, but Islam still maintained as a main religion in the Federation of Malaysia. So we have it clear. How come we want to say suddenly to change our constitution just because it's human right of others' perspective? We say, okay, then we have to change, amend our constitution just to give a right for the same-sex marriage to be happen. No, that would never ever happen in Malaysia. Never. This is the first ever perspective that I want to discuss, how Joe Biden will not give any impact to any human rights issue in Southeast Asia. Because in US, if you can see, their institutions is already being biased since the beginning. Despite they say that we give the opportunity to all, there is no opportunity to all. Even in Hollywood, all the blacks actor and actress to get to where they're supposed to get also, I think it's very rare for them to get the Grammys award or Oscar awards, despite maybe they are much better than the white actress or actors. This is the clear discrimination, yeah. And then you're talking about US itself. US simply never sign or be a party to the CEDAW Convention, which is a protection for the women and women's rights. So that's why for me, US having a problem in terms of uphold or respect the women. That's why the pornography industry in US is the #1 and the #2 exports from United States of America to abroad, to all the world. Because if they have that, they have to protect the women. And I take an example, when Malaysia became a party to the CEDAW back in 1995, we have to amend our constitution. We have to amend the meaning of gender in our constitution, because previously in Malaysia, any Malaysian ladies married to foreign men, they have to follow their husband to go back to the husband country. They cannot stay in Malaysia before 1995. But then our government realized, year by year, many Malaysian women married to the foreign men, and they are all educated. And we're losing our educated women to the developed country or other developing countries. So we changed it when we changed our immigration law, when we back in 1995 became a party to the CEDAW. So since that, we said whoever Malaysian women married foreign husband and they're giving birth in Malaysia, the baby definitely will be Malaysian. If the baby are born abroad, they can register their baby at the Malaysian embassy or any consular or any high commission in the country that they reside or domicile. And also, the kids have a right to choose their nationality when they reach 18. So if they want to be Malaysian citizen, they will be allowed. If they would want to follow their father's nationality also, they can do so. So I think this is nothing to do with whoever, because my country are not practicing dual nationality, but US having a dual nationality. Okay, that is one aspect of US. Second, the institution of US itself, if you can see how many graduate from the colored people compared whites, you can see more whites people graduated from a high school and also from colleges and Ivy League university compared blacks or others. So this is that is not the way that I can say the practical way of US. The things get more worse and more transparent when Trump start to be president, when he campaigned for the white supremacy. And this is like the Pandora box, open very wide. That's the what people actually in US, they don't like immigrants. So the only things is for those who are really want to protect the American standard, they go for Biden. But for those who are very feel that the white supremacy is supposed to be in the US, they vote for Trump. So you see that very difficult for Biden to win a majority. You know, he's still at 57, 58. You know, and for me, yes, half, but not that. It must be like 75% for American people. No, he just got half of it. And it's also not easy but it's also very good because his vice president is actually blacks mixed with Indian. So we see how Harris can do, yeah, in this kind of situation. And back to the standards of human rights in Southeast Asia, we have a 10th country in Southeast Asia, all of us having our problem. And all of us have a serious issue of human rights. First of all, I think Singapore as a country that #1 and more developed in ASEAN, but Singapore having a problem because they are still maintain their ISA law like Malaysia before, which is if there is any subversive or any opposition that try to say something or to critique the government, they will be arrested for 30 days, no access to the lawyers. So for me, that is the worst, because if you are a transparent government, why you have to worry about your opposition? Your opposition is supposed to be the balance, check and balance for you. So you don't have to worry with anything. If I'm a prime minister, I don't worry. As long I do a good job, I'm really transparent to my people. I don't take my country's money. I don't give it to my crony. I don't practice nepotism. I think I'll be in a safe place. But it's not happen when the politician being, have become the prime ministers or ministers, because they're practicing all those things. So in Singapore, they have their own scandals. They have their own way to maintain their standard, but still the human rights in terms of their political opponents is not that good. they have still not give the people the freedom of expression to critique their country, to critique the government, for example. So when Malaysia, we make the ISA obsolete from our law, people in Malaysia try to feel like, oh, that's very good for us because we don't have any this kind of law that really, brutal to many of the opposition. So, but Singapore say, don't ask us, don't ever put us like Malaysia, because Malaysia have their own way, we have our way, we maintain our ISA. Don't talk. So that's what the Prime Ministers of Singapore said at that time. Do not talk, don't ask, no nothing. We maintain it because it's how we want to maintain the peace and harmony of our country. Unlike Malaysia, actually for me, in Malaysia, we have many issues with human rights. First of all, I think rights for the poor people. Lately, after COVID, during COVID, we can see that many people are losing their job, and I think many treatment for the poor people have been lacking. What I can say this in terms of protection. In Malaysia at this moment, people are talking about the human protection and human security, because we can see that first, we have many people that die under the police custody when they're having a remand proceeding. And we don't believe that they die because of heart attack, as young as 17 years old and until as old as 58. We believe that this is a police brutality. That is the issue that now in Malaysia, we question the police brutality. I think 2-3 days ago, also the treatment of a police at the group of the Indian men that be assumed as a terrorist and a gangster. It's highly saying that how the police treated them at the court. It's an open court and all the public was there, and people put a video and say that this is how the Malaysian police standard doing. This is the standard of Malaysia. So police brutality is an issue in Malaysia. Treatment to the asylum seekers and refugees also is very bad in Malaysia, because we are not the member for 1951 convention. So we allow them to come, but we charge them as illegal immigrant. So this is something that many scholars, including me, against the stand of a government, and we really day by day. In fact, even now, we are really working together to push the government to have the mechanism to control the refugees and asylum seeker in our country. If you don't want them to come, don't allow them to come. If you allow them to come and then you treat them like they're worse than animal, then what is the point? For me, whoever become a human being is a human being. Doesn't matter where they come from. So let's handle it with UNHCR. So this is very political things in my country. It's very, very bad, because the issue of human rights is always like, if it happened to the foreigner, it's okay, but it's happened to Malaysia, there is a big issue. For me, everyone has to have the treated equal under the state responsibility of international law. All the people must be treated equally as a citizen. Right. So in Malaysia, I think the police brutality issues, the right to speak. No, I think even the right to speak, to critique the government, we do now. We do. And many people do it. And if they say something bad about a king, then they will be arrested by police. Because king are not part of the system of democracy in Malaysia. King is because they are the bulwark and symbol of our federation. That's all. But they cannot come and interfere in administration of a country. But we may refer to them to get an advice. That's how the function under constitution. And I think in Thailand, for some years under the junta, Thailand people getting more fed up with their king, especially the new king. Because before this, you can see in Thailand, the king is their god. I can say that. But since the present king take over, the respect to the royal institution, I think, getting worse, especially from the young people. So that's why we can see in Thailand now the movement of young people to say that you need to limit the power of a king is now started to get a protest, and also to get the demand from the young people. I think the young people nowadays, they are more open, they are more understand what is the human right, what is the democracy, what is supposed to be done by the leaders. So the old traditional leaders, they can't accept that the young people can be there to tell them to shut up or to get out from the politics, because you cannot play any major role anymore to us. So I think the movement is a very strong from Singapore to Malaysia to Thailand. And if you can see that in Cambodia, the issue of human rights is because of expansion of China power in Cambodia. If you go to Sihanoukville at this moment, you can see Sihanoukville is a southern part of Cambodia where there is a beautiful beaches. The problem is China bought so many lands in that area until the last time I visit that place, people start to call it southern China in Cambodia, because all of Sihanoukville area, the village, the China come and bought all the lands with the good cooperation by the Cambodia government. So the people protest, but they are poor. When a poor when the poor people come, if you can see, they can't do anything. They cannot get a good lawyers, you see. So what they do is just protest, and it's not going to do anything because still the China and the Cambodia government make an arrangement, and China got all the land and turns that Sihanoukville area to become like another modern Shanghai, but worse. Because they have so many prostitutes there, they are bring gambling, uh, I can say cheap motels, and the area is like full with Chinese citizens. So I myself also, like from my own experience, not to feel that happy again to go to Sihanoukville, because I feel like I might be in other part of China in mainland. That's happened in Cambodia. Without prejudice, Cambodia also having a problem with child prostitution, which is until today is still cannot be protect or cannot be solved by the Cambodian government very well because of a poverty issue. Myanmar, as you know, that's the problem with the Rohingya, the problem with the democracy, the problem with the poverty is mixed. So Myanmar for me is the worst ever having the human rights issues in Southeast Asia, because they have the conflict with Rohingya, and that conflict is really brings crimes against humanity, and also a very, very dangerous situation, because it makes the Rohingya people come to Malaysia, come to Indonesia and Thailand. And this is what I said, that our people cannot stand anymore with these people, because at this moment Malaysia having 178,600 more or less refugees. So that's a huge number, and they do not get access to the school. They cannot go for the government school. They cannot go for hospital, because if they want to go to the government hospital or clinic, they have to pay double. So this is where Malaysian, I think recently, our prime ministers at the ASEAN summit really mentioned that Rohingya need to be, the issue need to ask all the ASEAN to have a consensus on it, because Malaysia, Indonesia or Thailand cannot having this burden anymore and cannot be put as a burden for these people, because this is a problem with Myanmar. And we go for another country like Laos. Laos is the poorest, same almost level with Myanmar. Laos is the small countries, landlocked country, but very rich in terms of supply electricity to their neighbor. My visit 3 years ago to Vientiane and also to a northern part of Laos, the people are still living like, I think, Malaysian living in 1970 something. So there is no road with the tar outside of Vientiane, and the travel that's supposed to take 1 hour, making 2 hours and a half, no tar. So very careful. You have to go all those area with a village and everything to reach at that kind of area, where when you arrive in Vientiane every Saturday morning by Asia, there is no electricity until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So when I asked why is that so, they said because we're selling our electric to Vietnam and also to Thailand. So we ourselves sacrifice for not having electricity. So can you imagine that? And recently, Laos government failed to pay on certain debt to China, and China will take over all the industrial area in southern of Laos. So this is another that many of the people and also many of the NGOs of human rights in Laos very angry and start to tell and the government what you do is very wrong because you deny the rights of the Laos people. You can't do this. You cannot selling this country property to the another country, but this is what they deal with, so they have to give. So in this case, there is one activist who very angry with this. He suddenly disappeared when he having all the protests with all those village people that government cannot take the land, cannot give to China, cannot give the industry to the China. Suddenly he disappeared, and his case brought to ICHA. Why this activist suddenly just disappeared? And ICHA asked Laos what happened, and Laos government until today say that he just disappeared. It's something to ponder, like when somebody against you and he disappeared, you might kill him, but no government will say I kill him. So we believe that it's something can connect to the Laos government, definitely. And about Vietnam, I think Vietnam, they might be a little bit successful in controlling pandemic, the COVID-19, but Vietnam also having a problem, especially when they do not have so many, what can I say, they have many legacies of American in that country. They're still having a more population which is living below poverty lines, and also at the rural area. So Vietnam are still struggling very well to be at that uh, best that can give to their people, but I think they have a limited resources. Based the human right in Vietnam actually more on the activists that against the government policy for the development. Again, Vietnam also opened many investors to the foreign country, but reluctant or fail to look at the rights of the Vietnamese people in this case. So I think also Vietnam also quite brutal in terms of people who critiques their country. So I do believe that this is how we can see the way the government treat these people. I think in Philippines, for example, we know that they have a little bit crazy president, Duterte. Somehow rather, I think sometimes I think he is really someone that you cannot predict. And sometimes he said he's good with US, another day he said, yeah, I'm very good to China. So I don't know actually where he bring Philippines heading to. But he's the very, very outrageous and for me very maverick president, because he's the only one who killed the drugs pushers by just thinking they are involved and kill them. It's about 12,000 people, I think more or less, people being killed just like that by the police randomly, just think that okay, you are the one. If you can see the documentary done by Al Jazeera on how the poor people facing this thing, it's sometimes I think that is really, really a genocide for against his own people, because not all the people that he killed is drug pushers. Sometimes, and all the people, almost all the person that died is all living in the very bad slum area in Manila or any Makati city or Pampanga and any area which is very well known for the poverty. So I think the president should be more. I think the problem is he inherits Philippines where the countries already need to get more progressive, because Marcos is already corrupt, and Marcos passing it to another president and another president until Duterte. So it's really bad for the Philippines, where they export about 17 million from their 77 population abroad as a professional skill. So you don't have to be surprised that in Kuala Lumpur, you can see Philippine at the cashier, at the city center. You go to US, you can see nurse. Many of them are nurse in US and Canada. So I was like, they are everywhere. Even I met them in one of a country in Ghana. Say how far that you can go, because for them is they export their human resource to all over the world. So Philippines are having a problem in terms of poverty, in terms of injustice from the government towards the poor people. And I think in Indonesia, more or less, the country that I always follow, because I think Malaysia and Indonesia, we not so many have a very clear issue on human rights, except I think Indonesia, during the Suharto time, he's a president that gripped Indonesia. Many politicians and many scholars think the way that Suharto did for the country is good, because Indonesia is archipelago country. So it's not like Malaysia, which is the country are not scattered. Your country is scattered. So if you don't have a strong administration, then the people tend to rebel. I have another way around. I do believe that every country's president have their own way. And when I think when people don't want him anymore, or people want to be more democratic, more democracy, people would do for it. It happened in Malaysia too, because 60 years we see the same government become a government for us, and we feel that is enough for them. We elect the opposition to be our government for 22 months back in 2018 until last year. So when we feel that the opposition also failed, then suddenly they have all this government like you see today, not so being fully supported by people, not also being loved by many people. So at this moment, we just look at what they want to do, because we are more want to see the government to work for us, the people, to handle COVID-19, and please bring back us the prosperous of economic. That is what I think Malaysia and Indonesia ask from the government, because the COVID-19 is quite, I think, stop many good things that we try to do. So I think the problem also I can see is in Brunei having a problem of human rights. Actually, the only thing is people always think Brunei is rich, and people always thinking Brunei doesn't have any problem. They do have problem. They do have a drug addicts, quite serious. The rich is only the people, the rich people is only when is you are related to the king. But if you do not related to the king, I think they are still like us. They are still have to work. They still have to struggle, and there are many issues regarding. I think Brunei is more or less because they are monarch. They are monarchy country, so the king is a powerful in everything, and the king is the one who not allow any faculty of law being established in the university. So all the Bruneians, they normally will go to Malaysia to study law because of the British system. Together with Singapore, Malaysia, and Brunei is the country that British common law. So we practice all more or less the same law. So this is where they have to go, because the government not allow any faculty of law to be set up and established in any of the university in Brunei, because for the Sultan of Brunei, it were against them later on. They believe faculty of law is a threat. For me, it's funny because we should not to see faculty of law as a threat, but for what I understand, my friends say that you can teach anything, but if you ask that you want to open or establish faculty of law, the government will not allow you to do so. So I know that's the scary or the paranoid of the king towards the law itself. I think like also in Indonesia, of course, I think Papua issue is already I've been heard about 3 or 4 years ago. I also received many pictures. The Indonesian military, Indonesian army did this. Actually, for me, picture can tell 1,000 words. I think, but I don't want to be biased to the Indonesian military or Indonesian government. I think inside countries or internal problem should be solved by the internal person. Yeah, unless the Indonesian government asks somebody else to help. But I choose to be not biased to Indonesian government or to the Papuan people, because I think I'm not in that particular person or position that can claim what is it. I do believe the government knows about what happened, and the government also have to listen to the NGO. And I do believe NGO in Indonesia are more progressive, are more aggressive, are more brave than in Malaysia. So I do believe that you can handle this thing. Of course, I think when you're talking about the brutality, is a very subjective too. It happened to almost all part of the world. The only thing, the numbers and how far you can bring the issue to the international. So for me, all of us in ASEAN, this 10 country, we have all our unique problem of human rights. So Joe Biden become a president or not, and he become a president, he not going to change anything in Southeast Asia. Because even though US try to say to us, hey, hello, you do this, you do that, we can say, hello, US, you also don't even sign the CEDAW. Your women are not protected. So don't talk much. So you also have a problem with the colored people. Clear your inequality institution first, then you talk to us. And last but not least, they also forget to close their military base around the world. That's really sometimes, I think, also make the other country, like in Okinawa, in Philippines previously, make all the country people in that country not happy with the attitudes of their soldiers. And also don't forget about the people that they are holding because of the Al-Qaeda and so on, are still not getting justice until today after almost 20 years. So I think I can see the relation between Joe Biden and human rights in Southeast Asia. More or less everyone, every country having a problem with the system and the people in their own way. So thank you very much, and I hope I can answer the question from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Salawati. So from the presentation, we can learn that actually every country has its right to define what is human right, and actually it's kind of a useless thing to hope that America can help us to against human rights issues in Southeast Asia, because United States also full of discrimination, and actually Joe Biden will not really give a big impact to human rights issue in Southeast Asia, and maybe we can say to Joe Biden that he have to uh, we see that he have to uh, to solve their problems first before they try to solve Southeast Asia problems like that. So today we will start our question and answer session. There are already three questions uh, from the uh, from the students. First, from Samuel Hamonangan, he wants to ask that during the Trump leadership, the diplomatic relations between USA and China were getting closer, while Joe Biden from the Democratic Party tried to see the diplomatic relations with China were not as close as under the Trump leadership. Through the U.S. foreign policy regarding the issue of human rights violation in Southeast Asia, it is a strategy to reclaim diplomatic relations in Southeast Asia, which have been controlled by China. That way, the USA at any time can pressure countries in Southeast Asia with the issue of human rights violation for any country that is not in line with, not disrupting its strategic policies in Southeast Asia, especially regarding the trade war with China. My question is, what is the strategy or foreign policy for developing countries in Southeast Asia to block or withstand the USA interference with human rights violation?
Okay, as I said, US want to maintain their status quo. Despite they having a problem with their own human rights, they are still critics everyone's human rights issue in every country. So I think that is the attitude of the superpower, to maintain the status quo at the level that people cannot touch them, but they can always critique and condemn anyone they want, especially for those who don't want to listen to what they want. I think for the Southeast Asia country, we're going to be tested with the South China Sea issue, and can be related to the issue of human rights. Why? Because I think US are try to pursue and try to look at that, how the other country in Southeast Asia not to be close or not to be so like to China because of this issue, but they bring the issue direct to the human rights. For example, I've said the very simple. The Congress of US can pass a law against China regarding the Xinjiang area. I mean, Muslim people are being, living in the arrest, and also the center by the government of China. But US never can critique any single thing for the Israel doing to the Palestine. So US also themselves are playing a very biased, very clear. Whatever, anything regarding Israel never can be passed, never can even critique. The critique to condemn to Israel never be passed at the Security Council. So why you are so busybody? Of course, what happened in Xinjiang is make Muslim angry. Personally, I'm angry. But I think before you are talking about to to create the scenes that, okay, you don't do good to your people, and that you don't have to go far, you yourself cannot do that. So I do believe that under Biden, it's more or less like the Obama time, because Biden is vice president when Obama was a president, and this kind of I think you can see that Biden are not Trump, because Biden tried to bring back the status quo of US to be put as it's supposed to be. So I do believe that US will go everything for the Indo-Pacific issue, and will ensure that any country, especially contestants of the South China Sea, to look at them rather than to be with China. And I think they are successful, because I can see Vietnam and Philippines more or less actually still depends on US. And I think that they are also try their best to bring more opportunity for Indonesia lately. Yeah, and with the Japan Prime Minister went to see your president, that also a signal, because this is all the Indo-Pacific issues, and the Indo-Pacific country, India, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, they're all behind US. So I think you have to understand the geostrategy and politics of the superpower. So for me, very clear. Yes, US are trying to the strategy of foreign policy for developing country. For us, I think do not block with US, but cannot also withstand with the US interference in the human right violation. But I think if they are talking about the Rohingya, then we have to stand together, because that is what is supposed, because it's really give a burden to us. But if you're talking about Thailand, LGBTQ, I think we Malaysia are not signed. We're not going to sign the LGBT convention, because it's really against our norms and also cultures and religion. And I think if you're talking about Indonesia, about Papua, that what happened in Geneva. The US are very concerned about what happened in Papua, and accuse that brutality of the Indonesian military. Again, I said we cannot put our sovereignty to the foreign country. I think I love the way how my diplomat handled the things with US and China. We said that we are very cooperation to both of them in the economic sectors, because all of us want to eat. But in terms of our policy, our foreign policy, no one can come and tell us what to do. And we have to explain to them, this is what the international law want, which is the sovereignty of a country, jurisdiction of us. So as long we don't we don't breach any other country's rules and sovereignty, they cannot come and tell us, oh, this is what wrong, you do it, this or not. For me, maintain a good relationship to both of the superpower, but do not let them interfere in our foreign policy and where we're heading our country. That is a must.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Salawati. And then we also have a question, another question from Megawati. She wants to ask that she read that the political change in a country depends on two things, namely regional and international pressure, and political will and political commitment to the national government. An important indicator in the political and security pillar that countries in the Southeast Asia region must strive to implement. So you want to ask your opinion about this statement related to human rights, especially in four countries whose human rights issue have always been in the spotlight of the world, especially when it's related to the current US election result.
Yes, I agree, because or I can read in Indonesia the way that she write this thing. Okay, it's true. There is always a stress and depression that the developing country like is facing. First is the we got the stress and also hit by the regional and international organization towards us. Yeah, but I think the more important is the political will, political commitment. Uh, Other country can see, why Indonesia doesn't want to sign this convention. For example, like many country critics Malaysia, you are very bad, you're supposed to sign the 1951 convention of the refugees. You see, you got more than almost 200,000 refugees in your country since 1960, but you cannot do anything about it. You are very bad country. I think I'm facing it in Geneva, especially at the UPR, because the two things that always people attack Malaysia, first because of the human rights issues and immigrants issue, second for the LGBT issues and also right to choose for the religion. These three things is every year a must condemn for Malaysia. But we get used with it. I think first, countries should not be influenced by any regional or international depression on them. We should not be secured. We're not supposed to be scary because of that. I think countries have their own sovereignty. A big country like Indonesia or a middle country like Malaysia supposed not to be afraid and also to follow what the others people do. I think when we want to sign any international doctrine, we have to look whether we can do it or not. If we have any ability to enforce it to our own people. If you don't have, don't do, because you will ensure you only open people to critique you and condemn you at international level. But I more like to see on the political will, because I do believe a good ministers, a good politician will always thinking about their people and where to heading to for the country. So in this case, I believe that no matter what people say, the country should not feel bow to the needs of other country, despite its US, despite its China, despite its ASEAN. I think ASEAN more easy because we must have a consensus. If one no consensus, we're not going to have a consensus on that. So it's more easy. But do not look at, Philippines become a party for that. Malaysia become a party for that. Oh, Indonesia must be. No, don't be that way, because every country must look at their human resources, must look at their ability, and there have to be accountability for that. So they must have to send every 4 years, the progress report to the United Nations bodies at the any convention that they be a party into it. So don't just because of other people ask you to do so, then you do. I think that's very wrong. And I think a good minister will get a very good advice from a good advisor, which is, I do believe all of us will be a good advisor to the government and say, no, we are not ready for it yet. Until we are ready, we will sign. Maybe we can sign but not ratify. Sign only and take our time to think about it, and if we feel we can pursue, we rectify. If not, we just stop there. I think that is the need. Malaysia sometimes sign but then take another 10 years to rectify because we are not ready. We don't want to be a party to the convention that we're not ready to give a commitment. It's like a marriage. You cannot get married just because your friend get married. You must get married when you believe that you can handle all those things that happen in a marriage. So that is important. So people can say anything to you, but you know your life better. So do the country. Only the people, the country knows for what is the best. You Indonesian people, you know what is the best for your country. I not know the best for your country. I know I enjoy when I be in your country, so I happy with it. But I cannot tell you, oh, you're supposed to be there, because I'm not the citizen of Indonesia. Indonesian people knows better what they need. So you must have your politician that listen to you. So for me, in this case, it's more on political will rather than we being bound to what other people want us to do.
Okay, Dr. Salawati, thank you for the answer. That you say that every country have to look for their to not to always follow what others country do about the human rights. But I want to ask a question. But we know that during Obama's presidency, the human rights issue that was brought to UN, one of it is about of Philippines, that President Barack Obama asked about the illegal drug trade war carried out by the Philippine government. What do you think about this? Can we call this as America effort to protect human rights in this world, or it's a kind of intervention of the state that done by American government?
Okay, I think actually US interfere in many countries' affairs actually. We can see like the issue like Pablo Escobar, and also many Caribbean issues. Actually, US, they themselves come and interfere. Not to mention about the US interference in many issues, especially in Iraq War. For example, I think we remember that 2003 issues of Iraq War. By the end of at the end of it, we can see that actually there is no WMD there. There is no weapons that you claim. Because US is I said to you, they try to picture that they themselves is a superpower. If you learn it, okay, I look at it that for US, there's a three important things. First, the democracy. Second, the defense. And third, human rights. So for US, all the democracy, all the country who not having a democracy is their enemy. For example, if you are monarch or you are like North Korea or you are having a dictator, you are not a free country and they want to free that country. I think this is what happened in Libya. You know, they are very peaceful under Muammar Gaddafi, but because of US interference, see what happened to Libya today. Another destroyed country. And also Yemen, US using Saudi Arabia as their partners to attack Yemen because of Iran. And we know that they're using a poor country like Yemen to have their own wars versus Iran versus US in Yemen. So who actually get the problem and suffer? Yemen people, not US, not Iran. So this is again, for me, US interfere in so many other people alive and affairs because they believe they can give the best way. Again, Western perspective are not Orientalist perspective, are not our perspective. What else from the Muslim country perspective in the Middle East? Because we do not have the same similar value. We see value different. That's why I said people, this is where the Samuel Huntington said there is no way you can put a point between human rights, Western perspective and Eastern perspective, because it always like cross. Because we never been agree with you. You know, your people is okay to have a children. You know, you're not married, you stay with your partners, and after that just leave. Is in Malaysia that happen very small issue, like meaning we don't have that. Meaning we have people who not married and having a kids, but we try to very much to help these people and do not want to punish them. The problem is we are not allowed this thing happen, meaning in our laws it's really clear the level of the illegitimate child and legitimate child. We may have to do that because we want to ensure that the people are following what is supposed to. But of course for the US is wrong because we are controlling our people. So US is actually want people to follow their value, which is wrong. So for me, yes, US interfere in many others affairs. They do that because they believe they have to be the best to the others. And they want again to maintain their status quo. So when you maintain your status quo, people cannot challenge you. So this is what they are doing.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And we still have another question, but this is from Joseph. She want to ask you about actually she because of we discuss about human rights. He wants discuss uh, about immigrant workers in Malaysia that have experienced violence in Malaysia. He wonders that what the Malaysian government has done to see the violence experienced by Indonesian workers by Malaysian employers.
Yes, I think this is very good. Very good. I can explain to you very well. As I myself involved in issue of the tenaga kerja Indonesia in Malaysia. Yeah, the problem that we face is especially at the domestic helper, rather than the construction site or farmers or many of the Indonesian immigrants workers, foreign workers in Malaysia. They're working in the industries area, which is in a factory or in the construction site or in the palm oil industries. Yeah, very large is as a domestic helper or maid. The number four, domestic helper or maid, this is where they're facing many abuse and people do not know, because in the house people only know if there is a neighbor who are very good and call the police, and the police will come, definitely will come. Okay, our Malaysian government knows about it. We knows about it. We knows all. The problem is we always have a very good relationship with the Indonesia embassy. Uh, I want to tell you my own experience handling this. Yeah, this is my own. I wrote regarding the immigrants, especially Indonesian immigrants, since for past 10 years ago. Why make me want to write is because when I'm doing my master's, I interview one of the construction workers from Indonesia. What is the difficulty that he faced when he working in Malaysia? He talk all transparent, from the police who always stop him and ask the money from him despite he have a passport and visas to work. He talking about how the extortion come from the police, also how their boss say, okay, you want to renew your visa, you have to pay by your own, or we cut from your salary. So it's so much difficulties just to have a better life. So I think we don't do much for our immigrants workers. I can say this. We want them in our country, but at the same time, we don't want them. This is the situation in Malaysia. Our people were not going to do all this kind of work or don't want to be involved in that industries, but at the same time, we want foreigners to come, but actually we don't want them. This is a very, very unique and in Malaysia, we want them, but at the same time, we don't want them to be here. So this is something that happened in Malaysia, but the others industry we can control. The only problem is the domestics. Many of us found out this case when the other neighbors call, say, hello, we hear the ladies cry, the ladies being killed, or the ladies are, help. So then, yes, some they're running from their boss, they're running, they jump. One of the case that is me myself, it's happened in 2017. After I sent 2016, when third Ramadan of 2016, until today I will remember, because I'm the one who drive a car. I put my girls both at the nursery and I want to go to UKM, my university. I crossed one of the elite area in Bangi where there is a rich people stay near my university. Then there is one lady come to my car, I'm driving and she come to my car and she stopped my car. I was thinking that she want me to drive her down because it's the hill area. And she said, help me, help me, help me. I'm not supposed to be the maid. My husband sell me. She sold me to my sister-in-law to bring me to. So because it's so talk too much, I just come across my mind. It's like, she really needs help. She needed help. And I just remember God gave me the idea that I need to bring her to the Indonesian embassy in Kuala Lumpur. But that area is full with cameras, meaning they can see me bring him. So what I bring her in my car. So what I did, I said, you come at the back. I opened the door. I said, you come at the back. You lay down at the back of my car. Don't sit down. You lay down. Suddenly, I just cross all that thing peacefully and I just pray to God, please help me, please help me, please help me, until I arrived at the Indonesian embassy at Jalan Tun Razak. The first thing is I call my ex student who working at the diplomatics, I think politics and political area. So I call it, I say, I bring your people here, problem. He said, okay, doctor, you wait, I come down. So he cannot explain to. And this lady are crying and explain Indonesia to all the people there, saying that she's from Aceh. The sister-in-law said, you follow me to Kuala Lumpur just for tourism, just for liburan. Then he bring the lady to one of the rich people area near my university and sold her for 4,000 ringgit Malaysia to become the maid. At that time, there is a moratorium. The maid cannot be sent to Malaysia because I think Indonesian government said hold on first because of the abuse case. You know that she's pregnant and she told everything that she's pregnant 2 months, and the rich man wife asked her to do so many works in the house, and he said the house is a bungalow, so big, so huge, I cannot clean everything, I'm pregnant. You know what I feel? And after that we found out that the rich man is a deputy minister. Me and the attaché of labor at Indonesian's embassy, I just said to him, my God, I saved someone that from the VIP house. Oh, if they know, I might lose my job too. I said, but I believe God. I just make that statement to him, and I said, but don't believe. Don't believe it. I help her. So they take him. They take her to because embassy in Indonesia, they have the house for the protection for all those abuse made in Kuala Lumpur. They got 2 houses. They must be there until their case being heard at the court, and what next. So I cannot be there because I'm so sad. Some comes to that house dumped by their employers just employee just like that. She lost her mind. When you and the people ask, what's your name? Tak tahu. Where you come from, Indonesia? Tak tahu. Can you imagine how I feel that? I saw it in one day when I sent this lady. I don't lie to you. Even after that, I called my dean. I said, Prof, today I saved someone, but it maybe affect my job because I saved him from the deputy ministers, one of the ministers in Malaysia. Then my dean asked me to sit down in front of him and say, okay, what's next? I save her. I save her. I have to send her back to the embassy. Wrong. She's not made. She's being sold by the family to work. Cannot. It's illegal. Then my boss said, okay, my dean say, don't worry, I protect you. If the people say that you safe and they want to do anything with your job, I protect you. I think thanks, Prof. Thanks. Because and Alhamdulillah, until today, nothing happened. And I got one call back 2 years ago in 2018 from her that lady, because I still remember I gave my phone and she called me in Aceh. She said she have a baby girl, 2 years at that time already. She divorced from the husband. She started a small business back in somewhere in Brandan, Brandan, something like that. So she said, thank you very much for saving her. That was the last I heard from her 2 years ago. That's what I want to say to you. My country knows this thing. Everybody knows that. The only problem is we cannot go to the house to have a check-in. I just spoke early this month with the number one at Immigration Malaysia for the foreign workers. I met him personally in his office. I said, okay, what can we do to uphold justice for the immigrants workers? We cannot quiet for the 2.3 million immigrant workers in our country, or else we can be condemned every single year at ILO. So he told me, the other areas we can control, we can protect, and we ask to have the observers of that. But we're having a problem with the maid because it's like they are scattered and they are using agent. So agent is the one that from Indonesian agent to Malaysian agent and rush to the house. But now, after the so many cases, die, abuse, everything, we make a very clear. Once you're having a case, forever you cannot take the maid. So many are being blacklisted under the immigration. So this family, whether the husband, the wife, the mother, the father, all the background is being taken care by. I mean, we have our database. So if these people want to take a maid, we will check the database first. So he said, you have a problem with the previous maid? No. You got the problem with any cases, any abuse? No maid for you forever. That's how we maintain. And also, I also have, I think since 2010, I was in Jakarta talking about this thing. And last year also in Jakarta talking about the same thing. I said to the Indonesian government, please ensure you do not lie about the age of the lady. Second, please ensure she can write, she can read, she can understand the law. Meaning before they come to Malaysia, tell them do and don'ts. And tell them the number of the attaché or any people that they can get if they're in trouble. Because if you don't give, they don't know how to get the help. Tell them that. Because we want to ensure that there's no one can be smuggling to Malaysia just to become a maid. So I think the scholars, the police, the immigration working very hard to ensure this thing. But I keep telling you, this is a human being, I got one question. There is one question that I still remember when the Indonesian TV asked me back in 2010, why many maid being abused in Chinese house? Until one thing that in Malaysia that is like me, how I want to tell that, yeah. But for me, yes, if you ask me that without prejudice, I know no racist, no racial tension here. Yes, it's true. Maybe because the Chinese people in Malaysia, they want everything to be fast. Unlike you are working in Malay house. Malay house, maybe because we are more or less the same, religion almost the same. So we don't do that. If our maid a little bit slow, we just say, okay, it's all right, you can do it better. You can see the percentage of what happened. But again and again, we know that we try our best to curb the situation. And I think quite sometimes we don't hear that. I think almost this year we don't see. But against our NGOs, especially the migrant care, always come back to us and report if there is any cases and all that. And police or embassies or human resource and even our foreign affairs never look at this as a simple issue. That is a very serious issue that I can show you.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. So we can learn that Malaysia government try to help to prevent the abuses that uh, by that step, and it's effective enough to reduce abuses in Malaysia, like that. And then we will go to a last question from chat column, and I would like to inform to all of participants after this question, I will give an opportunity to all of you to give a question directly by raise your hand first, and then I will let you ask your question, and please turn on your camera and your microphone. So this is the last question from comment column. From Ms. Megawati. She is also a student in Diponegoro University. She want to ask that the implementation of democracy and human rights in Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam tends to be more difficult than in other Asian countries. It still has to make an optimal effort to implement it in accordance with the agreement in the Asian Charter. Given that cases of human rights violation are more dominant in these four countries, what I want to ask is, if this is the case, is it difficult for these four countries to implement a democratic system, or is there any influence or intervention from foreign parties that cause this?
Okay, you have to look. This is Indochina countries where this is Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. They have one similarity, where is Buddha as the main religion. That one is make them more unite because they have the same religion in all these four countries. But I think the problem is because Vietnam and Laos. Laos is a socialist country, very much almost like Russia. Vietnam also former socialist country and embrace democracy, but still the doctrine are there, the way they act is there. I can say that is quite difficult because there are many interference from other people, other first world country. For example, in Vietnam, US want to forget what they have done in Vietnam War and how many of the mixed American Vietnam kids that being left by the Americans army back in Vietnam. So to clear the scenes, US always giving opportunity for Vietnam to take and participate in economic and also at the international and push them for regional players. But I think that will make Vietnam be more to US and also Russia. Vietnam is former France colony, but Russia very much attached to Vietnam in terms of nuclear. So every year, about 500 nuclear engineering from Vietnam will go to Russia to get a training and a master's until they become an engineer in the nuclear issues or nuclear power. So I think Vietnam owe these two countries very much for their development. So when you owe somebody else, this is where you have to not to hear, but you owe, so you bound to feel like I'm not going to hurt them. So this is what happened. So Vietnam are more or less can see that they're fighting with China at South China Sea very aggressive because they have backup. The developing country cannot become so that aggressive, yeah, except for Indonesia, because I think Indonesia with 245 million population, more or less, you have a backup by your own people, and you can show your, I can see your strength, and you are not the party that contest at South China Sea, but you have a problem with China at Natuna. So, but unlike Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, Brunei, we're facing China clearly in our territorial waters. So everybody try to champion, everybody try to get the best for their country. But Vietnam, I can say they got a very much backup from US and Russia in this case. And Philippines also, they really have that backup because they have a far away with China. They have even to the tribunal in 2016, 4 years ago, because of South China Sea, but China never want to recognize their awards. So this is the way I can say that, except Malaysia and Brunei. Brunei, as usual, quiet, but Malaysia, we don't need any. We really maintain our country based on our, I can say, neutrality and also diplomatic way. So these four countries, you can see, religion make them unite, but politics make them different. So Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, that's why they're having their problem different. And that's why the human rights issue in their country also different, because it based on who back up them. For example, Cambodia is China who back up them, not France. Myanmar, who back up them? Is it China? Because China exploration of economy in Myanmar, especially gemstone and also gas. And same also in Vietnam, Sihanoukville area, ports, gambling, entertainment are now become part of owner to China. So you can see this two pro-US and two pro-China. So definitely it will bring here or there problem in ASEAN because they have the who at the back, compared the country who don't need to be at back or someone to back them, needs only good cooperation. I think in this case, like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, we don't need anyone to back up us. We can take care of our country. The only thing is we need to be good and we don't want any conflict. Because if there is any conflict in ASEAN, it will make all of us in jeopardize rather than get prosperity. So that's why if you talk about that, this is who at the back of these four countries. That is the major problem for that.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And now I will give an opportunity to everyone who wants to ask a question directly. Please raise your hands first, and then I will let you to ask your question. Is there anyone who wants to ask the question? Okay, because there's no one who wants to ask a question anymore. Today I want to say thank you to Dr. Salawati for the presentation. We learned a lot about human rights, about the American and the politics, and about the state especially. And today we can say that we have a very interesting discussion, but before of the time is over and no one want to ask a question anymore, so we have to finish our discussion now. But before we end this discussion, we will have a photo session. So please kindly turn on your camera, and here I will capture our virtual discussion pics from here. Okay. Okay, I inform to all of the participants, please kindly turn on your camera because I have to capture our virtual discussion pic from here. Okay, I will capture our picture. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you for this interesting discussion. Good afternoon.
Thank you. See you. All the best and stay safe.
See you.
Okay, all the best. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you so much, Dr. Salawati.